Like that.
Pulled that chainsaw, started it, and then so this is where we die.
Let me play my part.
Check 2, hey.
Like, is that real? Did that happen? Like,
The structure of your brain actually changes.
and do you still feel that every day?
And then it got time for guitars.
Eating disorder, like
I didn't want to die,
tendencies.
but I didn't want to live either.
Helpless little girl.
You gotta go in the hospital.
You feel powerless because the body has a fear reaction.
The opportunity to empower.
No one can take away my power.
I won't take myself out.
Artists that are true like that, those are the ones that tend
It's like
to
a sin.
create change.
Yeah, and in her situation, it was, she did everything a person can. She was in and out of treatment all the time, but it seems like the more I talked to people she hung out with, the more I realized that this was kind of not a secret, like she was ashamed that she struggled to eat. Well, sometimes she was, if it was holding her back from touring and she was like physically unable to do what she loved because she was starving.
Yeah.
But it was also more of just like people didn't have a vocabulary to even understand if someone said I have an eating disorder. I met her in 2012. I didn't know what that meant. I just thought it meant people who are skinny who think they're fat. Like I knew nothing about it. And I thought that was the beginning and end of it and that's all there is. And I'm, always kind of curious, like what people who cared about her and spent any time around her picked up on. Like, did anyone notice like she kind of didn't eat, or did people not even really pick up on that?
I don't know that anybody really picked up on it because I do recall being in the studio and when we broke to get some food, and I know she went and got the food, brought it back, and then I do believe this is a while ago now, but I think Fluff said, "Hey, there's plenty of food left, and you better go get something." She's like, "No, I already ate." So
yeah, last week.
Right, yeah, and if it's one of those things where the context is thrown off, it's hard to say, well, yeah, I ate last week. Yeah. And
that's the tricky thing, like for her, is that when she said that stuff, like when she said it to me, I knew what to look for, but I think she was genuine about it. The self-awareness piece is so difficult. I think that she literally felt in that moment, I am absolutely stuffed. I couldn't possibly have a bite. And who knows if she had had anything that day, but the less you eat, your stomach gets smaller too. So I just so that people listening understand that people aren't always necessarily trying to be deceptive. It's just the mind is deceiving them.
Yeah.
And their relationship with their body is so disconnected. They wouldn't even know what a hunger cue is by the time it's been years and years of an eating disorder. So, she did what she could and she did get the album tracked. And that's what matters at this point, is that we have this work of art to share with people and say that people struggling, who don't know how to have that outlet and how to express themselves, they can listen to this. And, it's resonating with a lot of people. So I'm curious, as a drummer, like how lyrics sink in with you at all, or if you're just way more focused on obviously driving the rhythm and doing your job, or do you listen to lyrics at all as a drummer?
Well, it kind of depends. A lot of times when there are lyrics in songs, I listen to them kind of as the whole picture when I'm not playing the music. But when I am actually like performing the music, I'm using more vocals as more of cues as to when I'm going to be making changes or accents and things like that. But it's kind of a on and off situation. When I am listening as a listener, I'm listening to lyrics and kind of getting the whole picture, and if there is a story to be told, or if it's kind of a neat, poetic, gesture. I like to be able to take all that in. But if it's a performance setting, it's really, I'm kind of focusing on what I need to hear and how I need to keep my dynamics and keep things where they need to be musically on stage.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's an interesting differentiator too. I think there's tons of people who are great in the studio and they're technical and they can play, in good time and have it consistent and everything. But then on stage, they don't really put on that show that people come to see. And Fluff talks about that in the documentary as well. It's about putting on that concert. So you're on a world tour now. Like you said, you're in Germany.
Yes.
What's it like? And what's it like for you to be able to do both, to really get out of the studio and get out there and rock 50,000 people?
It's definitely two different settings, because in the studio you're really more focused on what's being played and how it's being recorded and how you're getting things to sound on the recording, as opposed to in a performance you're worrying about that and putting on an actual show and, you know, wearing the right outfit on stage and making bigger gestures, making it seem bigger than it is, and then also keeping in time and making sure that all the cues with the videos and the pyro and everything that's going on is all syncing up for one big show. And that's it's basically performing on a large stage scale is kind of like recording, but yet, you know, everything's turned up to 11. If you like my if you like my reference, you know.
I like that. Where's the stage?
Exactly. We've had a couple of those moments in some of these places over here too. Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. So talk about your tour that you're on right now and this band Ministry. By your Instagram, it looks like you guys are just slaying.
Yeah. It's let's see, we're finished. We're probably about halfway into the European tour right now. And then let's see, this is the last leg of the Americant record cycle. And there's going to be another record coming out here. I think things are getting recorded right now, and we'll see where that goes. And then but we're finishing up this leg right now in Europe. And then I think there's a couple of festivals that we're going to be doing in the US when we get back in the fall area. And then there's talk of another US run, and we'll have more details about that probably later on, closer to September with that. But yeah, I mean, you know, if you're not familiar with the band Ministry's been around since 1983. They kind of started as a synth pop band, and then that music kind of just evolved into what it is today, where you know, it's industrial metal, and it's kind of where it's the band that kind of pioneered that sound. And
very cool.
Yeah, it is. It's an absolute honor to play in this band. It's one of those things that, like, if you would have asked me when I was 15 years old, seeing Ministry at Lollapalooza, that I'd be in this band, I would have told you there's no possible way. But here I am. Yeah,
that's funny. It reminds me of this like cartoon meme thing that Kel shared with me once when we were first together. It was a picture that said at the top, musicians available in your area. And there was like 15 guitar players, like 10 singers, like, you know, 8 bass players and 1 drummer saying, sorry, I'm already in 4 bands.
Right. Right.
It's a good drummer is in demand and hard to find, you know?
Yeah, it's true. It's funny because, like, there's a lot of drummers out there, but there's a lot of guys that I've talked to over the years that, you know, they have a drum set and they do know how to play, but they're not really into it for if they're not into it for the right reasons. They're more into it to, you know, go and be in a band and hang out backstage and stuff like that, and just kind of do that thing when they're not really into it for the musicianship. There's a lot of people that I run into like that, but I mean that's like, that goes with anything. I mean, there's even dudes that hang out at, you know, swimming pools just so they can hang out with guys that are on the dive team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's I think Fluff calls them posers, if I remember right.
That's the technical term for it. Yes.
I'm trying to remember what's in the documentary and what's on the cutting room floor, because I've been listening to the entire interviews lately that we cut from. So if I mention something it's not actually in the film, then my apologies. But yeah, he was talking about how serious Kel was in the studio about her sound and the signal chain, and you know, liking the channel strip a certain way, and like just understanding that every single thing going on affects the sound. And like he was mentioning that not all musicians are like that, and a lot of people are just in it for the scene, but then they are not down for the hard work and the science.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true.
Yeah. So what's it like? What was it like when you started playing? I think at 7, like your progression, and when did you feel like, okay, I'm actually good at this? I think this will be my job for a living. You know?
I kind of realized when I was about 22, 23 years old that this was the only thing that I liked doing, because I had every other kind of job you could think of. Like I even I was a repo man. I delivered hospital. I mean, you name it, I did it for a job. And I tried just about everything. And I realized that this is the only thing that I was at all passionate about. And it was the only thing that I at all that I really wanted to do and was willing to, sacrifice and make major sacrifices just so that I could do this. And I would say I was probably about 20, 21, right in that area. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of the first time when I was a kid playing at a talent show, and everybody stood up and applauded what I had done with the other guys in the band I was in. That was kind of when I was bitten by the bug, where it was like, this is really what I want to do. Performing it just kind of got a hold of me then. Very
cool. Yeah, it's an addictive thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I'm not gonna lie. I've sold cars, quit jobs. I mean, I've done everything I possibly can so I can just play in a band.
What is the funniest thing that's ever happened to you on tour? Doesn't have to be this tour.
There's a lot of funny stuff that
you can say.
I
mean, this is an explicit podcast, so you can pretty much say anything.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess. Let's see. There was. I'm trying to think what would be a really good one. Like on stage funny stuff that happened would be, let's see, there was one time we were playing, this is a long time ago in a different band. We were playing at a place called Hammerheads in Evansville, Indiana. And there was the same day there was a kind of a haunted house thing going on in the building, like right next door to this bar. And as people were coming out, there was this guy dressed up as Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he had a chainsaw. I don't think it had a blade on it, but he would start it and he would chase people that were leaving this haunted house down the alleyway towards the parking lot. And the funny part was that when we were leaving the club, he was hiding behind this dumpster. We were leaving the club to go back to the van we were traveling in just to get some food before we were going on stage. And we walked out and he pulled that chainsaw and started it. And then our singer looked over and goes, "So this is where we die?" And
this is how it ends. At least you're on stage.
Yeah, I was like, "So this is where it is. So this is where it ends." I was like, "Well, I certainly hope not, because this would be a shit way to go."
Oh man, I don't know. A Chainsaw Massacre on stage while you're playing. I mean, what else do you want?
Yeah,
some disease that takes 15 years to kill you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that would. If there was any way to go, I guess I would have to say, being murdered on stage is it's terrible to say. It wouldn't be the first time that happened, but at the same time, I guess you can't be too mad about going where you're happy. But yeah.
Get the music behind the mission. Hate Becoming by Kelly Nicole on iTunes and Spotify.
If you guys haven't checked out the merch table,
join the movement.
Buy the album.
Get your Kelly Nicole band merch and donate what you can at kellynicolefoundation.org.
Courage is from Amplified.